to the Good Body Podcast. I'm so excited about my special guest today, Dr. Ashley Maltz, who is a functional and integrative practitioner doctor. And we are not just friends, but neighbors. We've come to know each other really well over the past year and a half or so. And I am so excited to just pick your brain and dive into some really interesting topics related to your practice, functional medicine, integrative medicine, and we'll just see where the conversation takes us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So before a podcast guest comes on, I always like to ask them, is there a particular area of interest you want to talk about, or like something that's really on your mind lately? So when I asked Dr. Maltz what was on her mind, it was an unexpected response. Your response was, can we please talk about perfectionism and how it is ruining women's lives and dysregulating nervous systems? And I was like, whoa, yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I think I'm a recovering perfectionist and I can see it in others now. But as a medical doctor, I would love to get your perspective on how you see this like way of operating impact your patient's health, what systems are being affected, and just tell me why that was at like the forefront of your mind.
Yeah. So I think you caught me on a day where I had just seen a patient with various issues, going through lots of stress and anxiety. And at the forefront of it was not being able to be perfect at work and having just being completely overwhelmed with work and the stress and the anxiety was really centered around not being able to be like everything for everyone all the time. So it was perfect for me. I mean, this is someone who has struggled with acne and hormonal issues in general, gut health, anxiety, stress. So it just kind of, and I see it all the time. I see women trying to be everything for everyone all the time. And it really just, and even for ourselves, like we feel like we need to look perfect and we need to act perfect and we need to all the things, right? And it's not even perfection. It's just this standard of being that is unattainable, especially with social media and, all the technologies out there that can do anything and everything to your hair and your makeup and your face and the filters and it's just, when does it stop? Like, when is this gonna
I feel that so much.
not be a thing?
I know. I'm hoping the pendulum is going to like swing back towards really appreciating authenticity, especially in like the social media world.
Mm-hmm.
But I so feel that I think when you're operating in this state of perfectionism, I think perfectionism and overwhelm go hand in hand. And that overwhelm can really just be paralyzing and debilitating.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there are perfectionism tendencies in men too, but I feel like it really hits women hard.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I see that. I mean, I see it in men as well, but it manifests differently. Yeah. And it is usually centered around work.
Yes.
But women, it's not just at work, it's at home, it's with friends, it's
the
appearances, it's everywhere. Their homes, and there is something to be said for putting in a good effort and
sure,
having nice things and looking nice and that's all wonderful. But I do wonder at what cost it all comes, right? There's only so much time in a day, and where we put our energy is what manifests. And if it's not on, I also see it in health as well. The perfectionism in health and wellness, patients trying to do it perfectly. And I'm like, I don't agree with that. There is no perfection.
Exactly. Or achieving perfect health becomes so overwhelming, you don't even start the path
Right.
because it
Right.
just seems like too daunting of a task.
Yeah.
When in reality, if you were just to break it down and start with like baby steps.
Yeah. Just eat more vegetables.
Right. Start with something simple.
You
We're going
know?
to talk about vegetables
Yeah.
later.
I was.
Are we eating vegetables? No.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about perfectionism this morning and like the energetics of it, always trying to think of like, okay, how is this blocking our energy or our chi from like kind of a acupuncture standpoint? And what I kind of got to was like when you're in this sort of perfectionist state, you're sort of externally led, like achievements, accomplishments, external validations. That's what's driving you. And you're not internally leading yourself. You're not in touch with these like core energy centers where your validation or your value is more like inherent here.
Right.
So you're like less heart-led or, intuition-led. And it's exhausting for all of that validation to come from external sources.
Yeah.
And that has been a big thing for me to try to unravel.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear a little bit more about this particular client. How do you help them start to like maybe see that in themselves or unravel it, or any like practices you recommend to get back in the body or regulate the nervous system throughout the day?
Yeah. Well, those are two separate questions. So how does it show up? Or how I got this patient to recognize. I mean, she knows it. This is not a pattern. It's not a new pattern. So she knows that she needs to set some major boundaries at work. And I really do talk to my patients about where they can set a boundary or delegate. That's number one. When I sense that overwhelm, we talk about that, right? What can you let go of? What can you leave behind? And sometimes there are no answers. I don't have that answer for them. I definitely don't have that answer for them. But sometimes they need to think about that and like sit with it. You know?
I think delegation is so hard for a perfectionist to let someone else do something for you.
Yeah.
But that's a great exercise to ask someone to do. Like, can you delegate this to someone else?
Yeah.
It's like relinquishing a little bit of the control.
Just thinking small, like, do you need help folding laundry? Like, where can someone else pick up your kids? Something, at work. Can someone else create the email list and send out the emails? There's just different things that we can do. And I'm learning this in myself too. I see these patterns in myself. Although I did realize this morning that I kind of got the message of like, good enough is okay growing up. So like, I don't see it as badly in myself as I have in many of my patients, thankfully. It just depends what it is, right?
Yeah. I've reflected on that too. And I think I definitely had wonderful parents, but like the classic helicopter parents.
Oh.
And I think a lot of, achievement was like very pushed. And I think maybe if you reflect a little, that can be maybe where it started.
Yeah.
Looking for that external validation.
Totally. The achievement one, that's number one in my house, my wheelhouse, to my own detriment in many, many, many ways. And then also to my benefit. So
absolutely. Look at all you've accomplished.
Yeah. But I'm amazed I got through that. So
there's a cost.
Say that. Anyway, so, reflecting on what they can let go of, tapping in. I always teach the 4-7-8 breath, where you inhale for 4 down in the belly, hold for 7, and release slowly for 8. I always refer to acupuncture.
Yay!
To help them get in their bodies and move some energy in a more holistic, energetic way. And then, there's always, always recommend exercise is fantastic for getting in your body for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're overdoing it, right?
Sure. Exercise. Yeah, that can be something you become a little obsessive about.
I have
Mm-hmm.
seen that many, many a time, and you're
Mhm.
totally disassociating from your body
Mm-hmm.
and pushing yourself beyond your limits constantly. And, just smelling roses, being more present, having a mindfulness practice on a day-to-day
Mm-hmm.
level.
It's funny, the longer I've been practicing with acupuncture and talking to experts and treating patients, it's like the answer to almost everything is just get back in your body.
Yeah.
Anything to, get you from that like external way of operating and back in
Right.
your body. It's a game changer.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
And we're so disconnected
We're so disconnected.
in
And
so many ways.
myself included,
Mine
who is
too.
I'm a bodywork practitioner. And really, I feel like just in the past few years have I really been getting back into mine. We are super disconnected.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It is.
Yeah.
Especially with, our phones and social media. And if you add on like traffic and,
Mm-hmm.
TV and whatever else, Netflix, which I love.
Me too.
Children, a lot of people have kids.
Yeah.
You're just constantly pulled and caring for other people. If you're a caregiver like we are, or, at a home with like a loved one or as a profession, it's really tough to tap into that knowing inside yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
it's the most powerful practice we can have.
I agree entirely. So I'm curious. In your functional medicine practice, I would imagine you see a lot of hormonal issues and gut health issues, like these major internal systems. How much of it all do you think is related to stress? Of all the conditions and inflammation and dysregulation. Yeah.
I would say it's a good 80 to 90% due to stress. Yeah.
I had a feeling you were going to put it at 80 or above.
Yeah. It's stress and the behaviors that come out of stress, being stressed chronically.
Like the reactive behaviors.
Yeah. Like clenching and tension and yelling and, constantly working and always working on it on myself. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a single solopreneur kind of person. And, I take care of other people and
you have
got to put
employees.
I got to put
business
food on my own table and their tables and, there's stress. But it's about it definitely, also from my own experience, I know how IBS is created. So it's part of the problem and it can be the problem. You know what I mean? It's it's the creator and you react to it as well.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. We'll dive into IBS for a second.
Yeah.
Irritable bowel syndrome. I get a lot of digestion cases. And it's
same.
what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is there something going on in the gut that then sort of dysregulates the nervous system and causes the stress or anxiety over it? And we now know that so much, the gut is our second brain and our serotonin is also made there. So it can affect our mood when this is off. Yep. Or is it is the stress causing and it's all just, I think, spirals together.
Yeah.
So say someone is having gut issues, what might be the first recommendation to start trying to figure out what's wrong? Or how do you start to tackle that with someone?
Yeah. So it's a really complicated scenario. I mean, there's
Mhm.
so many different issues you could have. Is it you're not creating enough bile from the gallbladder? Are you having heartburn? Are you having gas and bloating? Are you severely constipated? Which I see a ton of constipation
Yeah.
and loose stools as well. Is it a histamine overload issue? I mean, there's a million different things that it could be.
Mhm.
And then there's always is it the mind body? Like, is
Connection.
there anxiety, stress? And like you summed up, perfectly, it goes both ways. So the vagus nerve runs from, our cranial base all the way out of our brain and down this side of our heart,
Mhm.
all the way down to our gut and loops back up. So there's a constant flow of information coming back and forth. Is it the bacteria in your gut creating the anxiety, which then causes you to spasm and tense and, there's so many possibilities. So for me, it's really listening to the story.
Mhm.
When did it begin?
Mhm.
What was going on in that person's life? Was there a major stressor? And oftentimes there was a trauma or just a move. I mean, those are very big stressors.
It's always interesting when you can see a major life event correlate to new symptoms.
Yeah.
Which it's always, I don't wish that for anyone.
Yeah.
But as the practitioner, it's like, aha.
Aha, eureka.
I know, we have something to grab onto here.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't put two and two together, which is fascinating to me.
That is always interesting.
I'm always like, oh, okay. Did you notice this correlation? Maybe it's not causation, it's correlation, but it could be the cause. There's so many things that could, oftentimes it's food related. We're seeing because our food system is not ideal in many, many ways. We do see quite a lot of food sensitivities, but what came first? There's got to be we learn about leaky gut syndrome. There's some breakage in the barrier between the gut and the blood supply, and things are getting through that should not normally be getting through, right? So I see a ton of chronic constipation. When you're chronically constipated, things are not moving out. They're just sitting there and fermenting. And
then you start to reabsorb that.
Yeah, it's just
toxic stuff that's supposed to be eliminated.
We need our elimination systems. We need to sweat things out. We need to breathe things out. We need to pee them out, digest them out, whatever ways we can. And, it's a whole picking of apart the process. So diet, I'll usually make dietary recommendations like basic, just whole foods. Let's cut back on processed things if they're not doing that. If they're already doing that, a lot of my patients are already experimenting with diet.
Yes, I get they've already done a lot of their own education and the experimentation has already started.
Yeah.
Maybe we can dive into this a little bit, but I agree. The first thing anyone can probably do to better their gut health would be to start with the processed foods.
Right.
Like I think everyone would agree, sugar, processed carbs, let's start there. Yeah. And then maybe like
fast food,
the inflammatory fats, like fried foods, fast food. And I think that sugar and inflammatory fat combo is like, that's the dangerous combination right there, which is most fast food.
Delicious,
unfortunately. Why is that combination so good?
Because they've made it in a lab and they want you to have that experience where all your brain chemicals light up.
Yes, a lot of money has been spent to figure out how to make your brain go crazy for Cocoa Puffs or whatever it is. But yeah, patients, social media, there are all kinds of diet approaches now. And the new thing is to just eliminate entire food groups. The carnivore diet or going vegetarian or vegan. Where there are people out there totally eliminating vegetables and greens, which, sort of surprising. But then I have some patients who have tried the carnivore diet and are getting good results on it. I have other patients who cannot eat meat. It will tear their intestines apart. They've had to pause on that. And I'm wondering, you as a doctor, practitioner, how do you navigate that when your patients are trying maybe things that are extreme, eliminating food groups? Any thoughts there?
It's complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, okay, so my number one party line is I don't believe there's one diet for every person. I've said that 1,000 and million times in my life, maybe more 1,000. I think elimination diets are useful temporarily. They're usually really hard to stick to. So when you do a carnivore diet, yes, you may feel well, but like, what's the root? What's the root cause there? It's really leaky gut.
Right.
So if you don't heal the gut and then you go travel somewhere else and you want to, you go to Thailand and you don't eat Thai food, like, what are you like, hello, yes, you can probably keep that diet for a good portion of your trip or, but the food is, it's our inflammatory food system that has reigned supreme, our chronic stress levels, which are out of control in this society. And, just the other environmental toxins and that mind-body component that's missing. I think that for me is really where I would like my practice to start moving towards, because, and what I do engage with in my patients is really bringing down that that sympathetic nervous drive. Because just recently, in 1 week, I told at least 2 patients to just take deep breaths before they eat. Like as they're sitting down, closing your eyes if you want. Prayer was a big thing in the past, so you could do that. Whatever it is, connect to whatever you want, just yourself.
Even gratitude.
For the
food you were about to eat.
And take a couple deep breaths. That actually stimulates your bile production. Just smelling the food stimulates all the enzymes that you need.
Forget digestion starts before the food is even in your mouth.
It starts with sight and smell. Well, smell probably if you're cooking it, it's going to, and then sight and all the processes that happen, and then just relaxing. We eat in such a hurried state. We're often multitasking, myself included. I am above this. I am not. I've had to learn. But I think just doing that and calming the nervous system before you're about to take in a giant load of protein, and it's hard to digest, actually.
Yeah.
Carbohydrates, fats, fiber, all these lovely nutrients that we need. But we want to stimulate the gastric acid so that it can flow, and biles and all that stuff that come from the gallbladder, the pancreatic juices as well. So insulin and, there's a lot that happens in our bodies, and we really don't honor it by eating quickly.
I love that invitation, though. It's like you're inviting someone to like just savor your food more.
Yeah. I will say, I think this is what Europeans have right. They have a lot of things right.
Yes.
But they really know how to enjoy their food.
That's such a good point, because a lot of people experience this. You can travel to Europe and have all the buttery croissants and eat their pasta and cheese, and it's not quite as taxing to the system if you were doing it here, and their ingredients are probably better.
Yeah, 100%.
But they also know how to, wine and dine themselves and savor it and get a lot of pleasure out of it.
Yeah. So you could have the French are known for tiny little portions.
Tiny portions too.
Right? But they savor it. They truly get the flavors and all the juices flowing, right? So it's a totally different experience versus our hustle bustle culture. And I'm sure it's not like that all the time over there, but that's the impression that I get.
Yeah. I love that.
The European paradox, the French paradox, actually. They have lower rates of cardiovascular disease than we do, and yet they eat butter for breakfast, and lunch and dinner, and drink wine all day, and they're healthier in general.
Because I think there has to be some level of like acceptance that our food and environment, it will not be perfect. Like we're going to be taking in some toxins. But if our body wasn't so stressed, it would be better. Like, we're pretty well built to filter out a lot of the bad stuff.
Yep.
And handle toxic things.
Right.
Like, this is a pretty incredible machine here, but it can't do its job properly if all of the energy is being spent because we're anxious or stressed, in fight or flight, running from the tiger that is actually the email or the emergency, the kid's school, or all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that invitation to just relax, savor, and enjoy your food and let your body prepare to do this major task of turning this nutrients into energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but to answer your question more also for the specific diets.
Yeah.
What I've noticed with the carnivore specifically and other elimination diets is that it's eliminating all grains for the most part.
Yes.
100%. If you're doing a carnivore diet or keto, you're eliminating all grains. And really our grains have been compromised. A lot of foods have been compromised by the pesticides we spray.
Genetic modification.
Yeah, genetic modification and all these, unhealthier practices. Granted, they have fed a lot more people,
Sure.
So there's pros and cons to everything. And I'm not anti one way or the other. I'm just pro nutrition and less toxins in our environment. But I would say that really eliminates all that inflammation, and that's why people feel better. Now, is that a lifelong thing they can do? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have any research to say that it's healthy or not. We don't, the plant-based people will argue that, any meat animal product is bad for us. And there is some research behind that. The meat-eating people will say, I'm more of an advocate for Mediterranean diet. It's right in the middle, or anti-inflammatory diet, which takes the Mediterranean and adds the Japanese or Asian diets. So it's user dependent, but I don't think those diets are long-term solutions for most people.
I agree. I don't find them to be sustainable. And when I've experimented with them, and then what I see in my practice as well, from a TCM standpoint, we're very pro vegetables, but in traditional Chinese medicine, we're very anti-raw vegetables.
Yeah.
And cold-natured food. I think there's similar properties in Ayurvedic philosophy. And a lot of people do really struggle with breaking down raw fiber.
Right.
And that's, it can be problematic. So I'm always really emphasizing, if we're healing a gut, if you're having vegetables, cook them really well to the point that they're practically falling apart for you.
Right.
Or soups are wonderful, because you're still capturing the broth and all the nutrients that was leached out. It is interesting in TCM, the way to heal a gut would have been a diet of congee.
Mm-hmm.
So rice, just really broken down. It's like an oatmeal, or it's a porridge, but instead of oats, it's rice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very easily assimilated, kind of gelatinous. It coats the intestines, a congee.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a grain, So it can just get so
messy, muddled.
That's the diet culture, diet industry, the outlook on diet. It's so muddled.
That also takes us right back to the original topic of perfectionism.
Yes. All right, let's bring it home.
Because I see so much of that in my patient population and in my friends as well, where, yes, it's one thing to notice if something affects your body. It's 100% great. I don't eat dairy, like ice cream, sometimes ice cream, but milkshakes I haven't had in 30 years.
Same, yeah.
No, thank you. I'd rather not have that because I know the effect it's going to have on me. Yeah. Great. But it's another thing to be so hyper consumed by all of these rules and laws and health, orientation. And granted, yes, they are not out to the system is not set up for our success.
No.
Restaurants don't care about the oils. They don't care about sugars and fats and none of that. They just want it to taste good. They want people coming back. They want people to pay for their products, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all that being said, I still see so much. It's like one or the other. You either don't care at all or you're so obsessed with where it's made, how it's made, who it's made by. And that it's a double-edged sword. I mean,
was literally going to say that has an edge too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that is stress on your body thinking about all of those things. So a lot of my patients get offered mind-body practice work. I do refer, there's a local former PA, physician assistant,
Mhm.
Lindsay Mitchell, who created her own like mind-body program called Vital Side. So it's all online, and I send a lot of my more complicated patients that way because honestly, we try everything physical.
Mhm.
And when the physical, they've already usually gone through the ringer with other docs before they see me. When the physical is not able to be fixed, quote unquote, or turned back to the way it was, or find homeostasis, it's usually, in my experience, an emotional component going on, or the mind body, just the
Mhm.
vagus nerve is off.
Yeah.
Dysregulated. So this program helps, and acupuncture and
Mhm.
other mind body engaging, gentle yoga, sauna, a little like
Yeah.
here and there, tapping, EFT tapping, and
Yeah.
all these things, lymph, jumping on a trampoline for 10 minutes a day. All these things can help. Humming can help stimulate the vagus nerve. Being around people you love stimulates it. So all these different things, but it really can often come to a head with my patients. And so this is another thing that I recommend quite a lot of.
I love that. I do think, and I was guilty of this, it's like there's two ways to be healthy: your diet and then exercise. And to me, exercise was always like a workout, like pushing your body. And now that I am like an acupuncturist and I learned about Qigong, and there are all of these incredible practices where you're moving your body, but you're moving your body in a way to like regulate yourself.
Yeah.
You're not moving your body to push yourself. You're not exercising in the sense that you're doing anything extreme.
Right.
You're moving your body to regulate your nervous system. We would say regulate your chi. And even yoga has become a little like twisted in that most yoga classes I attend are like power yoga, and it is very challenging. And I think even yoga in its original form or forms of it was also meant to be more of a regulatory practice.
Well, it was created so you could sit down and meditate.
Right. So you could get yourself like
get out the juice, get
things flowing, and then be centered and meditate.
Yeah.
And so I think we've kind of lost the art of regulating ourselves.
We're a society of extremes for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really, and I know you are too, more called to adapt the yin components of
the yin, which is
how I've been feeling all day today.
Yes. The yin as opposed to yang. So the rest, the feminine, the receiving, the darkness, the recovery.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I went to the gym this morning and I went to a Zumba class, and I go to Zumba all the time. I love it. And normally it revives me. This class, I felt it was overstimulating for my nervous system. I woke up tired today. I did not wake up my best energized self. And so I left like 15 minutes in. I didn't shame myself. I don't care. I'd rather not wake up tomorrow with dizzy spells, which is what I do get when I'm overstimulated and push my body too far. And I wish my 20-year-old self had known this, or 15-year-old self, when I was dieting and exercising 24/7. And, but you can't go back. And as you grow older, you learn more.
There's, the wisdom and the appreciation for the body. We're not testing it anymore. We're trying to
Yeah.
there's that shift. I think hopefully most people, it's like, we're not testing our limits. We're trying to nourish and focus on longevity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the more we talk about this stuff, the more people can know about it. There's a balance. Yes, we do. We need strength and we need healthy bones and all these things, especially as we age. But overdoing it puts a strain on your body as well. I've seen blood sugars go up in patients, marathon runners, or people who are training for triathlons. Yeah. And granted, and total digestive discord. Talk about a strain on your body. When you're running, you're in sympathetic. Shouldn't be digesting.
Yes.
So
I know some people seem to be born runners and they can't live without it. But of all of my patients and their exercise habits, the marathon runners, it is just so the hardest on the body.
Yeah.
I would not take it up unless you feel super called. It's so hard on the body. I mean, not just the joints, the internal systems too.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing.
It is. It's this incredible thing. And I have a lot of respect for the dedication and training. And I just don't think I have a body that's built for it.
I try.
But it is hard on the body. And you have to be doing recovery if you're doing that.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, so Dr. Maltz is a functional and integrative doctor. And by the way, you are a pillar in the Austin wellness community, the founder of the Austin Wellness Collaborative, which is just this amazing network of people. And I love how truly integrative your approach to medicine is. And this collective, it's so amazing to have people from alternative medicine and doctors be able to connect with each other. But earlier you were saying, by the time a patient lands in my lap or in my office, and tell me a little bit about why someone might choose to work with a functional or integrative doctor. What does that mean? I think that might be a nice thing to clarify if someone is wondering, why might I turn to this kind of practice and what are the benefits?
Yeah. So I describe my practice as, and I hate to take this, but East meets West.
Sure. I mean, you're
yeah.
You've got an acupuncturist who works inside your office.
True.
You are truly integrated.
And I do practice medical acupuncture myself.
That's right. I forgot.
So I had
you have
some training. I always tell my patients that it's kind of cookie cutter acupuncture. It's not the real deal, but it also can work tremendously. So we, it's an exchange, right? And my hats go off to the people who understand all the qi and meridians and all that. That's a totally different language. All the Chinese herbs, it's all literally in Chinese. Yeah. So I see myself as a bridge between all the different modalities. Allopathic medicine, I can speak their language. I know exactly when to refer to a specialist, when things are beyond my level of knowledge. I also know how to communicate with doctors, allopathic doctors, and the same goes with acupuncturists and Reiki crystal healers and all that. Yeah. I've explored a lot on my own as being someone who's had lifelong anxiety, chronic fatigue, chronic pain, you name it, depression. Yeah. I've had all the typical, overwhelm, stress-induced IBS. I try it all on myself. Yeah. So, and I'm also just a very open-minded person. I'm so grateful for that. I think that's one of my biggest, there's always times when I'm I don't think so. But
no, but I see that in you too. And that makes life so much more fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I like to explore. I'm an explorer. So that's why people come to see me. They've gone through the system. They haven't gotten any answers. They're still not getting better. And that's when you need someone to dig deeper. So we do, I'll check micronutrients. I'll check stool studies to the your microbiome kind of stuff. It's full on functional medicine where we start with the lowest hanging fruit, lifestyle, changing. A lot of patients will sit in my chair in my office and say, they didn't tell me of anything about diet. Instead, they said the opposite, diet doesn't matter. And I'm like,
how could it not matter?
How could it's input, it's information, it's molecules going into your body.
Yeah.
Of course it matters.
I'm recalling, this has happened to me a few times. I don't know why this always stood out, but I've had at least 3 clients come in who had their gallbladder removed and then are having a terrible time digesting. And I've said, well, have you considered maybe a digestive enzyme of various, there are different options there. And they were like, no. And I'm like, well, did your doctor mention you'd have a really hard time breaking down fats after this and it would affect? And they're like, no. Yeah. And it's wild how someone can have an organ removed and get no direction and how this might impact their bodies. And I just feel like a lot of education is missing.
Not taught, right?
It's not taught. And it's just wild.
But also we aren't, as an allopathic doc, we were not taught that.
Sure. And
so I learned all of this outside of med school.
Yes, you've gone above and beyond to, up your knowledge on how to help people and teach people. And I can appreciate, is it really a surgeon's job to teach health? No, he's supposed to be really good at successfully and precisely doing this procedure.
Right.
So, but there's something in there's a missing link.
Very basic.
Yeah.
Take this enzyme before you eat fats, in particular, So I see myself as that bridge.
The bridge.
Yeah. Another thing is a lot of medical trauma comes through my office. So people who've had really bad experiences with doctors in general and the Western, allopathic medical system, I do see a lot of them because they still do need medical care.
Yeah.
But they're scared and they don't want to spend 5 minutes with a practitioner who doesn't, really get them.
Yeah.
So those are kind of multiple. I also see that people who want to optimize every aspect.
Sure,
of
they
their
kind of
health.
want to be ahead of the game, preventative care, and someone who will order a more comprehensive labs and whatnot.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
It makes life fun.
Well, I just, love how truly integrative you are, a true bridge, I think, between different ways to attack, these conditions.
Yeah. I mean, I truly don't think there's one, like diets, I don't think there's one way to be for medical care. And we've learned that in the last 4 years.
I think we've learned that.
The hard way, unfortunately. But also it's been going on for a lot longer, the kind of more patriarchal allopathic medical system that came from England. We've learned okay, it doesn't really work, especially for women. It just doesn't work. It can, if you're in a car accident, heart attack,
Sure, crisis situation, emergency
I want
care.
The best. I don't care what the bedside manner is of my surgeon.
Right.
Make him or her the best and get it done. But for chronic illness, which is 80% of what we see in clinics, we need a different approach, and that's what that's what I came here to do.
I love that. Well, I cannot, anyways, recommend Ashley, Dr. Maltz enough.
Oh, and likewise,
well, thank you.
You're an amazing practitioner as well.
Thank you. I think it's so interesting you touched on that because I don't know how you operate, but I'll usually have an hour of time with people, especially the first appointment. And sometimes I'll be the first person they've gotten a chance to tell the whole story to. And I think for me, I don't have to say much. It's just that therapeutic presence and being a good listener. And it's incredible what people will share. And you can just tell, oh, maybe this is the first time they've gotten to tell the whole story from A to Z in a safe setting where they're not going to be written off. And that's where that medical trauma can come from.
Yeah. I've often been told that, but also often been told, you're the first person to actually examine me. And I'm like, okay, not the first person ever, but
thoroughly
for this issue or, really put my hands on them because there is an exchange. There's you can pick up on things that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's how I got into acupuncture. I went to an acupuncturist as like a last resort for some back pain.
The last resort, right?
Yes, that's how a lot of people find
I know.
acupuncture. It's a last resort. And I'm in for back pain, but this woman asked me about my digestion and my bowel movements. She asked me about the quality of my cycle, what my periods were like. Not even my gynecologist had asked me what my periods were like.
Yeah.
And like my mind was blown.
Those are the foundations of Chinese medicine.
Yes. And I was like, whoa, no one has ever asked me any of these questions. And there was a lot that was like not right. And that was a big reason I eventually, went back and got the degree for it.
Yeah.
But it was just someone like really taking the time to thoroughly investigate.
I remember my first acupuncture session where also similar. He was like, do you eat cold food? And I was like, yeah, every day. Right. And
salad every day.
A salad or
smoothie.
Being lazy. I still do it.
We're not perfect.
Taking food out of the fridge and just, but so just those small things. And he told me like you're yin deficient, I think, right? That would make sense if I'm eating cold and I'm always cold.
Oh, maybe yin excess.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever it was.
Too much cold.
It made sense.
Yin excess.
And he's like, just start eating warm
Balance it out
foods.
with some warm.
And I'm like, oh, and do you eat ice every day? Yes, tons of it. So it's not that difficult. It's small changes that can really have big effect.
Yeah.
And that's what I love. It's like when you find that small piece that's like, oh, and then you hear that they're feeling better. It's like, why isn't everyone doing this?
Yes. And maybe that's just savoring your food or chewing your food or taking deep breaths 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Putting your feet in the earth, which I need more work on too.
Yeah. I've been doing that a lot lately. So tell me as we kind of like wrap up, is there like, I'll ask you if you're open to it, personal question. Is there an area of your health or your life that's kind of like where you're diving into right now? Or, just curious in your world, what are you kind of working on?
My digestion still is a little off. It gets, I have it's night and day from where it used to be, but I feel I have been pushing the candle a little bit too much lately, snacking on a little too much dark chocolate.
Yeah, that's easy to do.
Snacking in general, like I'm not eating real meals for lunch because I'm so busy, which is a blessing. And
it is,
but really need to continue working on cooking, but more and incorporating more warm foods. It's, it's lifelong.
It's a
These
lifelong
things are
practice.
Lifelong practices, and we get to recreate, disrupt old habits, and every day is a new opportunity to do that.
Yeah, a new experiment, new little adventure. And it's not about perfection, but maybe trying to have fun with the process and the healing. And
there's
really,
I think that's another aspect we could talk about is shame, in another topic and another time, because that's a huge topic. But why would I shame myself over eating too much chocolate, not eating real meals? Like it just is right now. And I know I can do better and I will do better.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Sure. I mean, shame is so unproductive. It's more like, okay, let's accept where we are. Yeah. We're self-aware. Yeah. And now we can
move through it
and do a little better.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's always helpful to have people to reflect that with and talk to. And that's why practitioners are also really helpful. Like, and if your practitioner is shaming you, I would say find another practitioner.
Please, yes.
No matter where you are on the spectrum of health, like you don't need that.
Nobody needs that. It is an unpudproductive
I used to use
approach.
It in my old way of being, like in my residency days, and fear and shame, and I'm not into it no more. So
I agree. I love that you.
Well, that's what I was taught.
Well, I was going to say, sure, that sort of fear-based statistics and all this kind of thing. But yeah, I love that you've like found your way of how to coach people.
Yeah. I mean, I tell the truth, but I'm not going to shame someone into doing one thing or the other. So we all have our own bodies and we get to make those decisions for what feels right for our body.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yay.
Oh, well, this was a great conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thank you.
She is really just like a wealth of wisdom and knowledge. And is there a way people can get in touch with you if you're in Austin? Is your clinic taking new patients?
Absolutely.
I'm curious.
Yes, we are always taking new patients.
And it is West
Holistic Medicine.
West Holistic Medicine is the clinic.
Yeah. So online, on social media, it's our name, West, W-E-S-T. It's on West Avenue. That's why it was named.
Yes.
West,
very centrally located.
Downtown Austin. And yeah, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. I think I have a LinkedIn page. Not so much YouTube or TikTok.
I know, it's hard to do it all.
Yeah.
But we'll make sure there's a way for people to find you if they'd like to.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.